In the late 1950s, U.S. engineers were asked to build a weapon that could never be stopped. Their answer was Project Pluto, also known as the SLAM, supersonic low-altitude missile. Unlike every other missile that uses chemical fuel, Pluto was powered by a bare nuclear reactor. Imagine a heat-shielded tube with a nuclear core sitting wide open inside. It didn't use fans or propellers. It used the sheer speed of Mach 3 flight to ram air into the reactor, heat it to thousands of degrees, and blast it out the back. It was a flying crowbar made of ceramic and steel that didn't just fly. It roared with the power of a continuous nuclear explosion. The craziest part? It had no shielding. To save weight, the reactor was exposed to the air. The moment the engine started, the missile became a flying radiator of lethal gamma rays, poisoning everything in its path before it even reached its target.
Project Pluto wasn't designed to just hit a target. It was designed to be a triple-kill weapon. Most missiles are dangerous only when they explode, but Pluto was lethal from the moment it took off. First was the sonic wave. Flying at Mach 3, over 2,000 miles per hour at treetop level, the pressure wave was so immense it would literally flatten houses and rupture the internal organs of anyone standing below. Second was the radioactive trail. Because the reactor was unshielded, the air passing through the engine became a stream of radioactive fallout. It left a trail of death across entire countries, poisoning the soil and water for generations. Finally, there was the payload. After flying across the ocean, it would drop 16 individual hydrogen bombs on 16 different cities. Even after it ran out of bombs, it would continue to circle over enemy territory, acting as a flying radiation spreader until it finally crashed, becoming its own dirty bomb.
By 1961, the dream of the nuclear ramjet was no longer a theory. It was a terrifying reality. In the Nevada desert, at a site called Jackass Flats, engineers built the Torrey 2 reactor. To test it, they had to assemble 25 miles of piping just to store enough compressed air to simulate Mach 3 flight. When they pulled the control rods, the reactor roared to life, producing 500 megawatts of power and glowing cherry red. It was a success, but it was a portal to hell that they had no way to close. The Pentagon now faced a problem that had never existed. How do you flight test a weapon that poisons the world? Usually, a missile crashes into the ocean when it runs out of fuel, but Pluto didn't have fuel in the traditional sense. Its nuclear core could stay hot for weeks. If they launched it, it wouldn't just sink. It would stay in the air, circling the Pacific like a radioactive ghost. There was no off switch. The only way to stop it was to fly it into the ground, creating a permanent nuclear disaster zone wherever it landed. As the flight test phase neared, the ethical toll became unbearable. Military strategists began to argue that Project Pluto was a war crime before it even hit a target. Because the engine was unshielded, flying it over Allied territory to reach a target meant poisoning the very people the U.S. was trying to protect. Even if it never dropped its bombs, the sonic wave alone at Mach 3 would level buildings and rupture the internal organs of anyone standing below it. It was a weapon of maximum unnecessary cruelty. The tactical reality was even insane. If the U.S. deployed Pluto, the Soviets would build their own. The world would be filled with nuclear-powered flying crowbars orbiting the planet 24/7. A single navigation error or computer glitch would mean a supersonic nuclear reactor crashing into a major city, even during peacetime. The generals realized they hadn't created a deterrent, they had created a trigger for total extinction. Logistically, the project was a nightmare because the engine became intensely radioactive after just one firing. Humans could never touch it again. The Air Force had to design massive robot-operated complexes just to handle the hot missiles. The cost was astronomical, and every launch pad would become a permanent dead zone. On July 1, 1964, the project was finally canceled. It didn't fail because of the tech. It was killed because it was too successful at being a monster. The Pentagon officially claimed it was too provocative, but the truth was simpler. Pluto was a weapon that humans were not yet evil enough to use. It defied every law of environmental safety and human survival. Today, Project Pluto is the ultimate ghost story of the Cold War. It was a missile that could fly for weeks, drop 16 hydrogen bombs, and then continue to kill with its mere presence. It was a weapon without a break, proving that just because we can build something doesn't mean we should. The flying crowbar never saw the sky, and for that, every living thing on Earth should be grateful. It remains the only weapon too illegal for even the world's most powerful military to launch.